Welcome everyone. Looks like we still have a number of people coming in. Let's welcome them in silence. Let's sit for a few minutes, make that the space that's both generous and welcoming as people arrive. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. It's wonderful to see everyone. Some of you that I spent this last weekend with, as the Just This family of sanghas sponsored a retreat a hybrid retreat in the UK, in Lancaster, and Nothing Missing sangha there, but then people came from all over, both in person and online. It was wonderful to be with all of you. One of the lovely things about such a hybrid retreat is that I was also sharing the teacher's seat with leaders in the Sangha there, the entrusted teacher Josh, and Trudy, and the current head student John Coatman. We enjoyed being with each other and teaching in a kind of a rhythm, a dance, through the weekend. And I'm going to bring something forward today, actually from a piece that Josh highlighted, because I think it's worth reflecting on today. Those of you who are not in the United States might not know that this is our week to celebrate what we call Thanksgiving. And so that being that week, I feel it's like a requirement that I speak about it a little bit, since it's our week of celebrating Thanksgiving. And each year we give talks, me or Peg or whoever is, we always give a talk that has something to do with gratitude and generosity and how they flow together. We sometimes don't even make distinctions. We will talk about dana paramita, the perfection of giving or the practice of generosity, but also at the same time we speak about gratitude as another face of that same quality. One year, when Donna and I were doing our retreat in Hawaii, we would often have a token, maybe a book, something that we would offer people. And that year, I bought a series of very small, either rice bowls or small tea bowls, and set them in front of each place the first morning. And so as Donna and I took our seat and we had our sitting like we just did, as we began the morning, I took the bowl as I could this small bill, and I held it up like this. And I asked, what is the gesture? What does that represent? And of course, a number of people said, well, it's an offering. And other people said, but you receiving. And the gesture itself, of course, doesn't indicate, being the point that both giving and receiving, the gift and the giver begin to flow together as one thing. And so this is the theme I want to open up a little more today to reflect on, and then maybe you'll have things that you want to go with. When I first went to the San Francisco Zen Center, I was at City Center in the city, and down in the basement is where the Zindo is. It's quite large, but because of the hills in San Francisco, the basement when for the building is actually the entry level on one corner, just because of the street. And there's a big shoe rack where people can come in that aren't living in the center, outside for morning and afternoon zazen. And it's a very large shoe rack. And there's a story that goes with it. There's a wonderful student of Suzuki Roshi's early on who was sent to Japan to learn Japanese joinery, Paul Bisco. In fact, Robert Steinbaumer and I, we've been talking about this man. He's amazing, a Zen practitioner and a wonderful architect and woodworker. And he had made that shoe rack, and this was, like I said, this is the late 60s, early 70s, maybe, late 60s. And Paul, when he gave instruction for newcomers, he would say, as he was walking them through, he would say, now, we have the shoe rack, so when you come to zazen, please wear shoes so you can place them on the shoe rack. It's a very interesting way to turn it around, isn't it? It's not like if you have shoes, put them there so you don't. No, please bring the gift of shoes and place them on the altar that we've made for you. It's a different way of thinking about this. You know, what is most precious and valuable to most of us is usually something that is needed or that we want, and it is scarce. And it becomes precious and valuable because there's not very much of it, and it's something we really need or want. And the two things that I hear about most frequently in speaking with people, which are thought of as both scarce and valuable, are time and presence. And if you put those together, the shorthand that we use for describing the scarcity is, you know, I'm so busy. Isn't that right? Isn't that the most common way that you hear this? I'm just really, someone says, how are you doing? Well, I'm really busy. Is there anybody here who doesn't say that at some point or another? In fact, this was a key focus for those of you that have listened to my TED Talk. I emphasize this descriptor. What if we dropped busy and had a different relationship with time and presence? What if we softened our addiction to just kind of coping and strategizing and organizing ourselves just to be better with time and presence? Because clearly that kind of strategy is quite limited. If I ask you to raise your hand, you don't have to do it. How many of you have decided, okay, I'm going to get my diary and my account in order. I'm going to organize my time better. I'm going to, how many things we say, I'm going to finally get this taken care of. But it's clearly a limited kind of strategy. In fact, we talk about that one of our ways of meeting almost anything in life is to, Joanna Macy talks about explaining, predicting, and controlling, rather than appreciating or becoming intimate with the moment. And these are all, you could think of as manager practices. They aren't really coming from the deepest place. They're trying to manage better. And I've heard Josh say, what if instead of saying I'm busy, what if we said my life is full? My life is full. But then that begins to edge on abundance rather than scarcity. And we come to our life with a sense of wholeheartedness and a wholesomeness and even restoration around the fullness that our life is. Some of you are aware of the wonderful Catholic teacher who died in 1969, I believe, Thomas Merton. He was a wonderful teacher. Here's a quote that he gave. It was sometime in the 60s, I believe, because there was a lot of activism, especially in the Catholic Church. So there's that word echoes in here. He wrote, there's a pervasive form of contemporary violence. And this is why I want to read it, because he calls it violence. There's a pervasive form of contemporary violence, activism, and overwork. The rush and pressure of modern life, or a form, perhaps the most common form of its innate violence. He really pressed on this. To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone in everything, is to succumb to violence. It destroys the fruitfulness of our work because it kills the root of inner wisdom and makes work, which makes work fruitful. And you think this is before cell phones and internet and social media. This would have killed him if he wouldn't have been electrocuted. I mean, it's amazing how he was saying this without these things happening. And he spoke about it as violence. And now we see what's happening on Twitter, and it's like, yeah, it gets worse. Otto Scharmer, the great economist, who is a professor at MIT, not the person you would think of to go to for the deepest spiritual wisdom, but he's amazing. He's coined a term presencing, with presence and sensing. And he defines it as the capacity to connect to the deepest source of self, to go to the inner place of stillness where knowing comes to the surface. That's his definition of presencing. And he does organizational development work, it's spiritual practice disguised as business. So I say all of this to just give us a kind of a context for giving thanks and being not only generous, but feeling gratitude. In my TED talk, there was a through line of being able to pause, reflect, and connect, which is a summary of some of that. So if you want to go listen to it again, it might be interesting. In this past weekend, we were, the theme was awakening to the koan of your life. What's the deepest question, the edge, and what's the through line that you work with, your own deepest, inmost request, and your deepest question that you practice with. And Josh brought forward from the Book of Serenity, case 21, a koan. Yunyan sweeps the ground. So now I'm going to switch from sort of ordinary talk in this way to a little bit of a Zen story. So Yunyan and Daowu were two buddies in the temple. So Yunyan was sweeping the garden. As sweeping the garden sounds strange. We may think of now, especially those of you that live in the Midwest, raking leaves, but you have to sweep the walk, You sweep the sidewalk and the path, and it looks really pretty for about 10 minutes until the next bunch of leaves falls, right? So Yunyan was sweeping the garden. And Daowu, one of his fellow monks, wandered by, saw him busy at work, and just said, "Ooh, very busy." Yunyan looked up at him and said, "You should know that there is one who is not busy." Daowu replied, "Well, in that case, there are two moons in the sky." So now it's that weird Zen talk, In that case, there are two moons in the sky. And Yunyan held his broom up and said, "Which moon is this?" And Daowu was silent. He didn't know what to say. So Daowu, the monk who started the challenge, who said, "Oh, you're busy," he's basically saying there's something wrong in this picture of separating out your ordinary self and what like you might think your true self. There's the one who's busy, and you said, but there's one who's not busy. There's the everyday entangled self, and yet there's one who's free. And then Tao says, well, if you're going to look at it that way, see, that means there's two moons in the sky. that you've separated. And Yunyan holds up the broom and says, well, which self is this? Basically, which moon is this? Which self is this one? He wasn't going to be trapped in the dichotomy. It's just this. So even in the midst of activity, is your Buddha nature, is your true self functioning? So the point here isn't, it's not, our practice isn't about like uncovering some hidden true self, so much as it is about discovering the truth about the self that we already have. That our self is impermanent, it's empty, it's interconnected, but that self, which is our true self, is in plain sight all the time if we know where to look. And that's what our practice helps us with. Yunyan is sweeping. Dawu says, oh, busy. And he says, well, but there's one that's not busy. Don't miss the bigger picture. And he said, but if you say it that way, Dawu says, now you're making like two moons. But Yunyan gets him and he says, well, which moon is this? How can you actually name it? Can you actually separate these things out? Now, later on, a student asked his teacher, or her teacher, who is the one that's not busy? Following up on this koan, who is that? Who's the one that's not busy? And her teacher said, she was not born from a woman. See, the Zen stuff turns quickly, right? And the student says, well, where is she? And the teacher says, where is she? And the student says, wait a minute, I ask, where is she? Why do you ask me back where she is instead of answering my question? And the teacher says, why don't you understand my answer while you answer my question perfectly? Like, what? And finally, in the commentary on this koan, using an imagery of an ox, because in Zen that's often used as a way to talk about our consciousness. He says, you're looking for an ox while riding it. You're looking for the ox while you're riding it. Stop looking for the ox you're looking for and bring forth the ox you're actually riding. This is what the teacher is suggesting. Who is the one that's not busy? Not born of a woman. It's not like ordinary. But where is she? And the teacher says, where is she? So wait. In other words, stop looking and bring forth what's here. Josh made a beautiful analogy when he brought this to the group. He said he was thinking about this when he was attempting to write his Dharma talk. And I hope I'm saying this accurately. He can correct me if I'm wrong. And he said, what if he made it, you're looking for a Dharma talk while writing it. Stop looking for the Dharma talk you were looking for and bring forth the Dharma talk you're writing. The one that's already percolating and moving inside of you all the time. Because these things start, well in advance. And then he really expanded it more fully. And that's actually why I'm reflecting on it today, because it stayed with me so powerfully. He said, you're looking for a life while living it. Stop looking for the life you're looking for and bring forth the life that you're living. This is the essence of our practice. And so it kept working on me when he made that point so powerfully and beautifully, elegantly. And as I was thinking of this little bit of reflection today in this talk, I wrote to myself, you're looking, because I'm thinking about gratitude and generosity and Thanksgiving. You're looking for gratitude while being nourished by it. Stop looking for something to be grateful for and bring forth the gratitude which is all around you. But then I went further. You're looking for something to give thanks for. You're looking for something you can give thanks for. Stop looking for something to give thanks for in your life and bring forth the gratitude as your way to live your life. How does one live one's life if gratitude is the base? Instead of just looking for things to be thankful for. Some of you probably remember when the former abbot at the San Francisco Zen Center was told he had pancreatic cancer, and he only lived for 3 months after that diagnosis. And towards the end, in his last Dharma talk, he was saying his practice was gratitude, and he would wake up in the morning, and as soon as his eyes opened or he took his first conscious breath, he would say the word gratitude out loud, and then he would look around. He didn't think of something to be grateful for. He set himself in a condition of gratitude and then noticed what was there. Oh, pain in my belly. Fear. My beautiful wife next to me. A comfortable bed. Not looking for something to be grateful for. Bringing forth a life based in gratitude. So maybe that might be enough. One of the ways to give thanks is to simply live one's life fully. To stop looking for some special life that spiritual practice is going to give you and bring forth the life that you have with some grace and some steadiness maybe, or stumble along. But of course, we forgive ourselves and each other over and over and over and over. And sometimes it doesn't look like anything special. But it's our life, and we're becoming ourselves, not someone else. And we can help each other, watch each other, support each other, and becoming ourselves. To stop looking for the life we're looking for, and to bring forth the life that we're actually living. To stop looking for things to give thanks for, and to bring forth your life as gratitude for each moment, knowing that we're nourished by it. And so what thoughts do you have today, or questions you might have? And thank you, Josh, for bringing this initially, and Trudy for reflecting it, so that we can have it today. Because I don't know if does it land for you like it did for me. It was very powerful. But maybe it's just the way that Josh did it. He was better at that. See, now I'm looking for it.
We have Sue.
Hello, Flint.
Hi there. I saw you shaking your head quite a bit when I was talking. Something was
And
up.
this really landed with me today. Last Friday, my very good friend of 45 years was hit by a car, and on Saturday she died.
Oh, no.
And, it was just out of the blue and a huge shock. And she was 83, but a very vibrant woman. Mm-hmm. I mean, you'll like this, Flint. Last Christmas, she bought herself a little chainsaw.
Of course, as one 83-year-old does, right?
Exactly. And she had a hillside and she used it up there. She didn't, that kind of thing. But
well, how old are you?
I'm 81.
I know, 81. So robust. And then suddenly cut short, she was.
Yeah. And she was cut short. And I've just been thinking about her with such gratefulness, because we've been friends for 45 years. And even though she lived in Seattle for the last 20, it didn't really matter. But she was a person who changed my life. When she was living with us, if you met my husband, you would say to yourself, he's probably the last person who would ever square dance. But she convinced two other couples, and we learned to square dance together, and we had a ball. I mean, she could just, and she introduced me to Tai Chi. Now she lasted 2 times. The other friend lasted about 4.
How
And
many years have you been doing it?
I've lasted for, 30 some years. And that's how I met Don and Catherine. And then through Don and Catherine, they wanted to be part of the Sangha. Well, if Don and Catherine do it, I better just, I just ride their coattails in. And I've just spent this time being so grateful. It's just been unbelievable and kind of, it's just there. It's just my life. And, I've always, the first night I spent a lot of time in her house, in her garden. She wasn't there, but I was just there. And I always, when I was with her, there was a feeling that I always had deep inside me. It was so wonderful. And I just had that feeling sitting in her house and walking in her garden the other night. It was in my mind.
In the koan where the student asked her teacher, when she said, show me the one that's not busy. And she said, where is she?
Yeah.
Where is she now? And it appears that she's coming through you now to us.
I guess that's true, isn't it? Yeah.
Seems like it.
But, just a lot of breathing and life just kind of flows through it.
And that's something to be grateful for, but that's also the practice of generosity, to offer yourself to your life so it can flow through you. It's like bringing your shoes so you can put them on the shoe rack, like offering yourself.
Yeah.
You're not looking for a thing to be grateful for. Be the thing you're offering, because life is offering itself to you all the time, or you wouldn't even be alive.
Well, that's right. Yeah. So I thank you today for this talk. It was
say your name.
Her name is Sandy Rudd.
Sandy. So it's good to acknowledge her as she's passed.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's for those of you that do not know, I've said this to a few other people. I'm not actually in this temple. It's a virtual background, as you might imagine, because they're doing construction in our home. So I'm in someone's unfinished basement. It's a little rough. So I thought, well, I'll sit in the temple. This is the Soto Mission altar here on the island of Molokai. And it was rededicated and reopened this past weekend. It's been here for 95 years. And was reopened. Sorry, Liz, you're waiting here. The statue on that side is Keizan. The statue on that side is Dogen. The two head of the Soto, and the Buddha's coming out of the top of my head, which is I kind of like, So anyway, just so you know what, and this is what a very traditional Zen temple altar would look like, by the way. You can see the incense there. Liz.
Oh, I'm glad to be in this temple with you.
Yes, I'm glad to be yours.
Or this basement, whichever.
Yeah.
This weekend.
It's the same thing as how we create this temple of our lives, And so which is more true? the um, like, is this more true? Or
Hmm.
so I didn't mean to distract you,
Well, thank you. I was gonna say, can we see what the basement looks like?
but it looks like what you'd expect: an empty
Yeah,
electrical box and a level and a few other things.
it had a certain art to it, though. It
It
was,
does. It does.
um, well, Chris and I had the chance to go to Dharma Rain Zen Center this weekend.
Oh, wonderful. They're in Portland. Yeah.
Yeah, and but your friend Bob was there, and he gave the
Oh, yeah.
Dharma.
Who's teaching? Yeah.
Yeah, and he talked a little bit about um, compassion. When we try to call it up from within, it can sort of like, we can get compassion fatigue when we think it's this thing that we have to do.
Right.
And he did something that reminded me of you, or something that you might do. And he said, okay, I want everybody to raise their hands and gather it in and bring it in like this, the compassion. And it made me think of what you're talking about. Gratitude can be this thing that we can also gather and pull in.
It's around us all the time.
Mm.
And being a Qigong teacher, he would suggest that we call that energy forward instead of like, it's not self-generated. That's the myth. If there's no individual itself, how would it be self-generated? What we call ourselves arises within that which is already here. So what a beautiful embrace. A
Yeah.
way to call him. Yeah.
It was fun to be with him. He made a lot of jokes, and it felt like being with you, and we could see why there's a friendship there.
Oh, good. Did you tell him I just told you the thing about us meeting in Australia?
Yeah. And he said, well, you tell Flynn. I said, right back at you, mate.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm glad you got to meet him. I'm glad you got to maybe meet some of the other people in the temple there, because it's a beautiful place.
It was beautiful. Thank you.
It's good to meet you.
And we have Chris.
Hello, Chris.
There.
Are you there? Yeah.
Hi, Flint.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yesterday, I was hit hard reading about the shooting in Colorado Springs.
Absolutely.
The things that were written about, not only about the shooting, but about shootings in general, were just devastating. There's a center that follows these things, and there have been over 600 mass shootings in the U.S. this year. There has not been 1 week of the year with less than 4 mass shootings. And I felt devastated, afraid, violent. I wanted a gun in my hand, even though I had no idea what for. Didn't feel like I would use it. I just wanted one. I felt like I didn't want to ever go out of my house again. Because I can't seem to find a way to live in this era of violence. And yet I know I will.
And there are horrible things that happen and have always happened. And
Yeah.
I can see what happens if you become entranced and make that story the whole story.
Right.
It is all the things you describe it as, of course, but it's not the whole story.
I knew that in my head in
Yeah.
that moment. I wasn't able to, I kept trying to access or invoke my Zen state of mind, and I couldn't do it.
And that is something that, boy, I recognize a lot, and others do too, because when things are that overwhelming, you actually can't do it on alone. You can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
So it's good that you're here today. That's why we sit
Yes.
together. That's why we show up at the Zendo together or whatever. But if you're alone quite a bit, that the narratives can start becoming very focused and narrow, you know?
Yeah. And so your Dharma talk landed smack on what I'm dealing with. And you've talked about this before, about this, I'm sorry, I don't remember who he was that talked about waking up in the morning and saying gratitude. And uh, that's tough. That's not easy for me.
It's a very strong practice.
Yeah.
This is a practice this is his final practice at the end of his long, deeply focused practice life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a potent one.
Yeah. Thank you for being here and allowing me to be more fully here.
But that's our job. I was really struck, and I don't need to go into it very long, but maybe you've read about the fellow that stopped the shooter.
Yes.
It's a very odd thing, isn't it? That here's a straight man with his wife and daughter watching a drag show, but he's a veteran from Iraq and Afghanistan, and his combat training saved a lot of people because he immediately went into action. That's a horrible situation. It was horrible for everybody. The only reason I mention it is because here's a person who had practiced something, so immediacy was available to him. That was salvic, that saved some people. And our practices, less violent, have immediacy that provides a way to support and protect each other.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Oh, good. Here comes my correction now.
He's Josh.
Flint.
Uh,
Thank you so much for opening up the reflection I gave a few days ago, and for all the weaving that we did during those 3 days with
it's
Judy.
continuing.
Continuing, and when I was preparing, I was very aware of the potency of the title, "Awakening to the koan of your life, awakening to the mystery of your life." And I'm aware, ever since I started, had the opportunity to offer Dharma talks, how I move between alive and dead when I'm preparing. And you explored that koan as well. And how I kind of, I can miss the aliveness in the opportunity to be fully present to people and to the talk. And and I was struggling with both of the talks, and I thought I really, I really I really have to do something different this time.
Yeah.
I really have to go for life, and
Yeah.
really, really be aware of what I want to say, what I want to say,
Yes. Yes.
and so that adaptation of the case 21 was a complete revelation, and I think I was ready for some kind of something new to come in,
Mhm.
um, to it's not just to the talk, but uh, how I how I am,
How you bring your life forward as a teacher.
how I bring my life forward as a teacher. And I realize what a gift it is to be given this role, because there is suffering and joy and everything in it.
Yes.
And the first talk you ever asked me to do was the Nansen's cat.
Mhm.
He says to the students, if no one says a word of Zen, I will slice the cat in half. And I've only really, really connected with that first request you had of me this time. Oh, okay. Um, I, it's I'm tired of being safe,
Good.
and
It's time for you to bring your way forward, your life forward, your teaching forward.
yeah.
Mm.
And so
Because it's the example of the teaching.
yeah.
That's the point. We're asking everyone, be yourself, bring yourself forward.
Mm. So thank you for everything, and for the mercy of finding a way through this.
Well, we do it together, and doing it together seems to have been a generous thing that we can be thankful for, our theme today. Yeah. And uh, on the 6th of December, which is 2 weeks, I think,
Yes.
Josh will be leading inquiry because I'm going to be in a contemplative photo workshop here in Hawaii, a retreat. And so one of the things that you can do is make sure, like wearing shoes so you can put them on the rack, please come. So Josh can express himself fully. So he can practice what he just avowed in public.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we have Joel next.
Hi, Flint.
Oh, what a beautiful sky.
Thank you for that. Isn't that's just a regular old Albuquerque cloud?
Yeah,
Like this
beautiful.
all the time. It's so astonishing here. Uh, well, thank you so much, Flint, for this amazing talk, and for what you brought forward from what Josh was expressing. I'm going to go back and actually listen to it again and copy it down because I want to put it.
And Josh's talk is available also, I think, on Apamata's Europe SoundCloud. So
I haven't looked yet, but I'm gonna hear that. I want to say it means a lot to me that Josh and Trudy talk a lot about Yunyan and and Tozan, and I'm blanking on Tozan's Chinese name, but he is a figure that means a lot to me because in my life I've struggled a lot with conditioning around my brother, and Yunyan and Dawu are often described as brothers, although
yeah, they kind of,
they may not be, but
yeah.
they sure sound like it. And the story of the Yunyan sweeping is something I think about a lot, and just what's the deal with that second moon, and I mean it seems like Dawu's always trying to get meta to whatever Yunyan's got going on, and Yunyan it seems like is always saying, hey, this is it, this is all you're ever going to get.
Mhm.
You can do that all you like, but
I'm
then
me.
yeah,
This is me.
yeah, it's me, and there's no separation in here. But and when you were talking with Sue, and Sue, I'm so sorry for the loss of your friend. What a shock that must be. But I thought of something in the way that Sue was coming forward with her memories of her friend, and how you responded to that. And that's a Yunyan story, which has to do with him and his relationship with Yao Shan. That Yao Shan had said things to Yunyan over time, like, "What are you doing here?" And why you spent 20 years with Baizhang and you're still such an idiot? You know, he didn't use that phrase, but then one day Yaoshan asks Yunyan what about something that Baizhang had said in a particular situation where he had called the monks together and then hit his staff and then sent them away. And Yaoshan says, "Oh, why didn't you tell me this before? And now I see him in you."
Ah, now I see him in you.
Yeah.
And now we see him in you.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to thank Sue for that, and you, and just that there's something particular in going on and recognizing gratitude and generosity in other people. You know, there's something particular in this capacity that is brought forth by our practice that you were pointing to.
Yes, this is part of the through line of our vitality in our practice.
Yeah. And just talking about ideas wouldn't get us there.
No. And Josh's comment, I don't want to longer be safe. He doesn't mean being unsafe. Not using safety as it's more like just a willingness to step into life. And to let it move through us. That's the through line. Because you're the old stories, our stories, Sue's stories, everything. Mm-hmm. This is a through line. We're all woven together this way. So thank you for that. Thank you for that teaching.
We have Ra next.
Good evening.
Hi. Hang on, I've put a light on. Oh, it's going to be glare.
Better now, that's good.
Well, gosh, we have like literally a few minutes, and I have nothing clearly formed to say, but there's so much moving in me from the retreat, and from hearing you this evening.
Good to have you on the retreat.
Oh,
To see you with your little family there, you know.
Oh, it was wonderful. Okay, so a few things that I could plot like side by side, because that's kind of what I have to do rather than make anything fit in any shape, is to study the self is to forget the self. Something about how tiring it is just to keep getting in the way of life.
That's a good statement. How tiring it is to get in the way of life.
I'm so exhausted.
Yeah.
With it. And
it's a very exhausting thing to think it's your life.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it? And then offering, just keep offering everything back into life.
It keeps offering itself to you.
Yeah. And I'm really aware we haven't got time.
It's here now, right this moment.
It's something about how I get hold of things, and then like they become this fixity. That just stops me experiencing.
Yeah, that was a whole Dharma talk right there that you just gave. That was beautiful. We attach to things, and like I was talking to Chris about, it's not the totality.
Yeah.
We grab onto things and then it becomes a barrier. That's being caught in the self-centered dream, what we're going to chant in just a few moments.
All the time.
Yeah. And
All-
there, you just notice that you do that, and the one that noticed it isn't caught.
Hmm.
Now, I just made 2 moons, but still it's useful.
Yeah.
Who's here
So
now? What's the one now? What's the one right now, right here with me?
it's us.
Yeah. You can't really say, can you? And yet, but that's not being wrong.
Mm.
Try to pin it down, and now you've made 2 moons.
Mm. Mm.
There's a breath in this, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Thank you so
if
much.
it's okay with you, we'll use our breath to do a chant. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. I want to express my gratitude, my thanksgiving for all of you and for this community and all those that aren't here and all those that will arrive at another time and have been with us in the past that we've lost. I'm very grateful for this life.
Thank you so much, Flint, for all that you offer week after week, year after year. And thank you so much to the other teachers that come forward, some of which are here tonight, such as Josh, Joel and Peg. Just thank you all so much. And thank you all for coming and arriving week after week and creating this wonderful shared space so that we can continue our shared practice. Thank you all so much. And if you'd like to offer dana to the teachers, such as Flint, and for other Appamada offerings, then please do go to appamada.org/contribute. Thank you all so much. And if you'd like to continue to meet and share, please stay right where you are, pop into gallery view, and I'll be with you in just a moment, and we'll continue for a further 30 minutes. Thank you all so much.